Hi. So today we are doing another dissertation vlog or a PhD student day in the life of writing a dissertation. But today I wanted to be honest, and because this is an uphill battle, there's high points and low points and ebbs and flows. Today I wanted to talk about what I don't like about writing a dissertation. So that's what we're doing. So as my computer sets up and I log in, I think the first thing that I want to say I don't particularly enjoy about writing a dissertation is there's not a standardized way to do it. And so there's a lot of moments where you do something wrong, or you could have done something more efficiently or better, and you just literally didn't know, and there's no way to find out. And what I mean by that, like in this video where I talk about my dissertation mistakes, a lot of those things could have been 100% avoided if somebody just sat me down and said, hey, this is how things usually go. Or like, oh, well, when you write a dissertation, this is something to consider. But nobody did that. And so I was kind of like just going with what I thought was best without really knowing what the rules were or the expectations or like just other things going on, like the relationship between the faculty. And so you want to avoid that thing that I hate. I do think after you're done with your comprehensives, so once you've advanced to candidacy or become ABD, whatever that means in your program, I think it's super important to sit down with your chair and really ask some real like straightforward questions. Bring a pen and a notebook, or like record the conversation or something so you have a good understanding of what the expectations are. And these questions should be, or what I wish I would have asked was, what is a common timeline for a dissertation for your mentee? Or like, what is your expectation of a timeline to write a dissertation? This is important because again, I was like, oh, I can do it in 6 months. And then I started doing it. And then all these people were like, well, it usually takes a whole year to write a dissertation, or you need to do this, or you should put it off a year. And now I'm in this weird middle ground where, because of my injuries and all of those things that I talk about in all my other videos, I kind of had to write my dissertation in 6 months anyway. So it didn't really matter what they were telling me. But had I known before, maybe I would have approached it differently. Whatever. The second question you should ask is, what is your expectations on communication, on feedback, and drafts? And that's super important because again, I thought that things were going a certain way and there was a lot of miscommunication. And I'm not going to be like, well, that's my fault, I should have. No, I had no idea. But I do think a way to avoid those mistakes or those moments of miscommunication is to really understand what your chair's expectations are of you. So what type of deadlines do they like? How do they like to review it? How often do they want you to check in? And if they tell you, oh, it's up to you, I would then ask, well, what are your other mentees doing in general? Like, what does the average student do? Because I did actually ask that question and I was told it was up to me. And then when I did it wrong, or like how they didn't like it, there was this awkward moment of feeling like I was being reprimanded or like infringing on their time and space, when it was like, well, I just didn't know because you didn't give me explicit expectations. So I think really asking for explicit expectations will help you avoid that. And then the third thing I would ask or kind of talk about is your expectations of them. What are things that you think would help you? What are some concerns or doubts that you have? And from there, really get like honest about what your capacity is and what their capacity is to meet those needs. Because even if you can't change chairs at that point, you at least won't be caught off guard with some new information or like somebody feeling some type of way or like some type of tension because you had that conversation. So yes, 3 straightforward questions. What does the dissertation process usually look like? What are your expectations for me as your mentee or as your advisee in writing my dissertation in relation to deadlines, feedback, and things like that? And then talking about your expectations and what needs they are able to meet and where else you should meet your other needs. I think that would really have helped a lot with the things that I'm not particularly fond of with this dissertation process. The next thing that I don't really like about dissertation writing, I mean, it's inevitable. I knew it was going to be a thing. I didn't think it's not a big deal, but it's editing. I don't like editing. And that is a personality thing, I guess, because I don't really have a lot of attention to detail. And even when I try really, really hard to have a lot of attention to detail, I'm not very good at it. And so for me, when I edit, there's just a lot of sensations of doubt that I have to go through, which I think a lot of people experience through the whole writing process in general. But for me, I try really hard to edit. But because I can't like my brain fixes things or rearranges letters or does these things where I think I'm fixing it, sometimes I'm making it worse, or I may not notice it. Even if somebody like highlights it and tells me to go look at this sentence and do it over, I may not literally see the issue. So there's a few things that I do to work with this. The very first thing that I just found out about this year actually came from one of my undergraduate students in a class I was teaching, and I was helping them with their assignment, and I saw like a little like bubble pop up, and that is I use Grammarly. Now this is not a sponsored video though. Grammarly, like, I really wish you would sponsor me because I would talk about you every single week because you have saved me. But as somebody who doesn't have attention to detail, as somebody who doesn't enjoy the process of going back and looking at everything that I've written to try to find the mistakes, Grammarly has been really helpful, where as I'm writing, it is actively suggesting that I change things. And it does work differently than Word. So when I was talking to my undergraduate student, I was like really amazed by how thorough it was. So it wasn't just like this word spelt wrong or there's a comma, but it's like this phrasing has like a clause that's in a wrong position or something like that. And those types of things really help with me and my clarity and not getting like mumbled in the process. But it also does all the minute details like commas, periods, spelling things wrong, using wrong words that are homophones even though they're not. So like small things like that. And so I've been using the free version of Grammarly for my entire dissertation. And I will say that has helped a whole lot in relation to the feedback that I get from my advisor. I mean, there's still things that he's like, I don't like this, you need to change this. But that's because he's also very particular about how I write or how his students write in general. So, I mean, Grammarly is not going to do everything, especially if your professor or your chair has a specific, style that they like. But it really does help with clarity. Again, I'm not sponsored. Really wish I was. There's a lot of alignment. If you're somebody who uses Grammarly and also feels this way, please comment and talk about your experience so they don't think like I'm just in for the money. But also Grammarly, if you want me to be in for the money, I mean, I love y'all as it is. Sponsor me, please. Everybody, give me good vibes. Hopefully they like me and that becomes a thing. The other thing that I do in relation to editing is I ask somebody else to review it. And this could be my fellow graduate like cohort, but I also ask, like, again, I have a mom who was an English major. Not a lot of people are lucky enough to have that. But you could have like an undergraduate student that you have a really good relationship with, or another faculty mentor that is or is not on your committee. And instead of like saying, here's my whole dissertation, review it, you can send different people portions of it to get feedback. So there was a period where like the last 10 pages of my first chapter, I was feeling kind of like iffy about, and I put a thing on my story like, hey, if anybody who is willing and has the capacity wants to look over and give gentle feedback on my last 10 pages, please DM me. And like 5 people reached out. I let 3 people look at it, And so I got good feedback, was able to edit based off of their suggestions. And then again, coupled with the Grammarly, grammatical, and also like sentence structure things, I was able to like fix the conceptual problems in addition to the grammatical and structural organizational problems. So I do think that it's great to have coupled the AI grammar fixer-upper thing and like a human hand to make sure that it's making sense and that the flow is really good. Oh yeah, something else that I do for editing is I write really simple. Now this is more like a personal stylistic thing, but it may be helpful for you if this is what would be easier for you and you just don't feel confident yet to do this. But I don't do compound sentences very often at all. Maybe once a page, once or twice every couple of pages. And that's because I realize in academic writing, it's really easy to get lost. And so if I know I don't like to edit and I don't want my paper to be like this big project that I have to go back and revise, I write simple sentence. And I'm talking like noun, verb, predicate kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like subject, noun, verb, predicate. That's it. And then I start a new sentence. So rather saying this, and this, I just say this, period. This. And it sounds really basic. And I will come out with a video that talks more about how I'm writing and like academic writing style. So if that interests you, please comment. But it really does save a lot of stress. Makes editing simple because now I know grammatically, I know there's like, you need the noun, you need the subject of the sentence, you need the verb, you need the thing that comes out of it, right? If there's an object, what is the, very straightforward. Punctuation, very straightforward. And then it helps with the flow of each paragraph. If it's just one sentence, I know exactly where I'm going and where it's connected. The other thing I don't particularly like is what I'm actually doing right now. It's just 100% related to the fact that I don't have attention to details, and so having to do small things like this, like just hurt my brain, and that's citations. I am not a big fan of having to edit citations and to format them and all of that jazz. And I know the easiest way to probably avoid that problem is to like have some type of management system like Zotero and things like that. I'm gonna be real with you. I downloaded Zotero. I have no idea how it works. I don't understand the bibliography like management systems. They're not very intuitive. That will probably never be a video you would get from me because I never use them. I don't know how to use them. Nobody's helped me use them. They've just said, oh, it's a thing, get Zotero, get whatever, and I don't know how to use them. So what I do instead is, while I am writing, because I don't like to interrupt my writing flow, I put in fake like footnotes or fake citations where I just write what I know about the citation, right? Like author, the book, maybe the name, but not in any format, just so I can remember. Then I go back once I'm done writing, and when I do that, that's when I think about, or that's when I try to organize all of them in one go. And so I open up a blank document to make a bibliography, and then I do my actual document to do all the footnotes. Hold on, I'm gonna make a small bowl of this. Or plate. Okay, so then the other thing that I do in relation to that as well, I use online systems or reference support things. So like citationmachine.net, that's something I've been using since I was an undergrad, and it's not perfect. There's going to be a lot of mistakes, but it does the format for me. It does the bibliography for me and the footnote. So then when I'm going through, there's already like a good skeleton, and then I just need to put in the missing pieces. And I will also put that link in the description box below if you've never heard of citationmachine.net, or if you want to use it. It is a resource online that is free. Just make sure you don't have your ad pop-ups on. And in that thing, you can just copy and paste your online databases, the name of articles, the name of books. You can put it in different citation formats, APA, MLA, Chicago, and all of those, and then it generates it automatically. And that's something I've been using since like 2012, 2013. And it does help me a lot with getting the bare bones. And then I go back and make sure that it's like, oh, if I need a page number, if I need this, then I do that. So that's what I do to kind of deal with that part of the tedious thing, where again, I don't want to deal with the details because I may miss them, misspell something or whatever. Citationmachine.net really helps me a whole lot with that. Oh, another thing that I do is I go back to my annotated bibliographies, because I usually did the work then to cite what I'm using. So if I'm using a resource or a book or something from my annotated bibliographies, then I can just copy and paste what I have there into my dissertation. And that has also been a godsend, because past me, she knew future me was not going to be enthused about citations. So by having my citations already done and organized both in footnote and like bibliographic citation format, copy and pasting has been great. So those are how I deal with the citations that I don't know, I'm just not a fan. Now, if you are interested in learning more about my dissertation process, or if you want to understand, or avoid my biggest dissertation mistakes, you should watch this video next, because it's a very good video that goes into details about what I did wrong and how to avoid them. Also, if you like this hat, this is future PhD merch. This is like your hat. You should have this hat if it's vibing for you. It's in the description box, pinned in a comment below. Definitely head to the Future PhD shop. Buy it for yourself. Buy it for a loved one. I want to thank you so much for watching. And I will definitely see you with a new video next week.